This is 46-year-old Gregory Rice. He was shot and killed on the night of October 2nd, 2020. For the next 5 weeks, Gregory's body remained hidden, concealed in a place no one thought to look. His family searched desperately. Police issued warrants and combed through rural back roads, but found nothing. 5 days after the murder, while authorities were still searching, 37-year-old Christopher Dontel walked into a local Lowe's. He bought a blue tarp, zip ties, and cinder blocks. But these supplies weren't for a home project. They were for disposing of Gregory's body. For over a month, it seemed like the perfect crime. Then, a routine fishing trip broke the case wide open. On the early morning of November 8, 2020, Donna Sue Souls and her family were catfishing in Little Petey River near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, when they made the gruesome discovery. Floating in the water was a partially submerged blue tarp. Curious about what it was, Donna used a paddle to lift it. The silhouette was unmistakable. It looked like a human body with the legs and head tied with ratchet straps. She dialed 911 and officers arrived at the scene. When they sliced the tarp open, the decomposition and stench shocked even the most seasoned investigators. The man had been shot 5 to 7 times at close range. Bullets had torn through his head, chest, hips, and thigh. The body was identified as Gregory Rice's through a combination of prior missing person reports and forensic examination during the autopsy. But to understand how Gregory ended up wrapped in a tarp at the bottom of a river, investigators would need to trace back 5 weeks to the night he disappeared. Gregory Rice was last seen alive on October 2nd, 2020, leaving work around 8 p.m. near Flint Lake Drive in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. His phone last pinged at his Arrowhead apartment complex shortly after 10 p.m. No one heard from him that night. He missed work without explanation. Calls went unanswered. Family obligations that Gregory never skipped simply went unmet. For those who knew him well, the sudden silence raised immediate alarm. 3 days later, on October 5th, Megan Jackson walked into a Horry County police station and reported Gregory missing. She appeared genuinely anxious and cooperative, portraying herself as a concerned ex-partner, desperate for answers about the father of her children. Investigators listened carefully, but at the moment, they had no body, no crime scene, and no concrete evidence that foul play had occurred.
Right. M-E-A?
M-E-A-G-A-N.
What's your last name?
Jackson.
Jackson.
How long were y'all married for?
We weren't married.
Weren't married. How many kids you got together? Just curious.
4.
4, really?
I was with him for 15 years.
How long y'all been separated?
Over a year.
Over a year. So.
And you talked to Greg on the phone at about 9:58, you said?
Yes. And I told him that I was still good for taking the kids to your house in the morning. He said yes. And, everything was fine.
That was the last time you spoke.
Yes.
To piece together what led to Gregory's death, detectives began examining the complicated web of relationships that surrounded him. Gregory Rice and Megan Jackson shared 4 children and a long, tumultuous relationship in Horry County, South Carolina. By the fall of 2020, the couple had separated, but distance did little to ease the tension between them. Friends and family described constant disputes over parenting responsibilities, finances, and accusations of drug use that had simmered for years. Their children would later describe Gregory as a devoted father who prioritized his kids above all else. At the same time, Megan Jackson had begun a secret affair with Christopher Dontel, a deputy coroner in the Horry County Coroner's Office. Jackson worked as a body transporter, while Dontel investigated suspicious deaths. Their professions gave them unique access to funeral homes and mortuary facilities, access that would later prove critical to the investigation. Dontel was still married with children of his own, making their relationship all the more risky. The affair would soon spiral into violence, triggered by a series of anonymous messages. In the weeks leading up to Gregory's murder, Dontel's wife, Erica, began receiving anonymous text messages. The messages revealed the affair and claimed that Jackson was pregnant with Dontel's child. The texts appeared to come from an unknown source, and Jackson quickly blamed Gregory for sending them.
Are those the anonymous texts you received?
Yes.
Was that on September 27th?
Yes.
So what did those texts tell you about an affair between your husband and the defendant?
They thought I should know that my husband got somebody else pregnant.
Did it name the person?
Not at first, but then later on it said, oh, and the person was Megan Jackson.
Was there anything about the way the defendant's name was spelled that meant anything to you?
Yeah. I just felt like it had to been, I even told Chris, like, when it came through that, I was like, this has to be somebody that knows her because they spelled her name correctly, because I've never seen her name spelled that way until I met her. So I feel like if just anybody, I mean, my name's Erica and people misspell that all the time, so I just felt like you have to know somebody to spell their name correctly, so I knew it had to be somebody close.
Did the text give you any indication of how they were able to find contact information for you?
It said that they found my number on a website. It was like special ed or something, like an educational website.
Was there any information about any trips that correlated with any trips that you knew about that your husband took?
Yes, there was. It wasn't like a screenshot or anything, but it was just a flight number and then the 4 names of the people that traveled.
Who were the 4 names, if you remember?
Well, I know it was Megan, Chris, Savannah, and I think Savannah's friend.
Do you recall what you were doing when you got those texts?
We had dinner plans with my friends, and Chris was on call, so usually when he was on call, we would ride to his car in case he got a call, and then me and the kids would just wait in the car, and so he had just gone into the house when the text message, the first one, came through.
Did they come through over
Yeah, they were spread out, yes.
So what did you do after you got that first one?
I texted him and I said, I need you to get somebody else to cover this call. And I said, we have a family emergency, I need you to come out here.
Did he come out?
Yes.
Did you confront him with the text or show him the text?
Yes, and because it was just from like the free site, he's like, I don't know what this is about, like, this just must be somebody messing with us, but I'll deal with it after the call. Let me finish the call and we'll talk about it or deal with it.
Investigators later uncovered burner app messages, explicit images, and would eventually prove through digital forensics that Jackson herself had sent the anonymous text to Erica. Crucially, the day after Gregory Rice was murdered, Jackson told Dontel she had suffered a miscarriage. With motive established, investigators turned to technology to reconstruct the final hours of Gregory Rice's life. Detectives launched a digital reconstruction of the critical days around October 2nd. They pulled cell site data, license plate reader records, GPS tracking from apps, and location histories from multiple devices. Cell phone records showed that on the day of the murder, October 2nd, 2020, Jackson and Dontel spent time together at Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve practicing shooting, then went to dinner at Abuelo's restaurant near Coastal Grand Mall. Around 9:14 p.m., they stopped at the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home, where Jackson claimed she needed to retrieve her glasses. After leaving the funeral home, Jackson contacted Gregory Rice and asked if she could visit him at his apartment in the Arrowhead community. Gregory agreed. What happened next was captured not through eyewitnesses, but through a damning trail of purchases and evidence. One piece of evidence cut through the data like a blade. On October 3, 2020, surveillance footage from a local Lowe's store captured Christopher Dontel purchasing a blue tarp, heavy-duty zip ties, ratchet straps, and cinder blocks, materials that matched exactly what investigators found binding Gregory's body in the river. Inside Megan Jackson's work van, forensic teams discovered blood evidence consistent with Gregory Rice, supporting the theory that he'd been shot nearby or transported in that very vehicle. Jackson's phone revealed the motive. Recovered messages showed escalating hostility toward Gregory, wishes for tire sabotage, brake line trouble, and ominous warnings of coming storms. But the timeline presented a puzzle that would leave investigators to an even more disturbing theory. If Gregory Rice was killed on October 2nd, why did his body remain hidden for more than a month? The condition of the remains and the timeline didn't align with an immediate river disposal. Evidence suggested that after the shooting, Megan Jackson and Christopher Dontel used their professional access to temporarily hide Gregory's body in a funeral home cooler. Jackson's role as a body transporter and Dontel's position as deputy coroner gave them unrestricted entry to mortuary facilities in Myrtle Beach. The body remained preserved there for weeks before they transported it to the Little PD River for the final dump. This calculated delay served a purpose. It bought time, muddied timelines, and gave the appearance of a fresh disappearance rather than an immediate execution. Armed with overwhelming evidence, authorities prepared to move against both suspects. The digital evidence, surveillance footage, and forensic matches formed an unbreakable chain. Horry County authorities moved decisively, arresting Megan Jackson and Christopher Dontel on charges of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and kidnapping. Prosecutors alleged that the pair had planned Gregory Rice's killing together and executed a meticulous cover-up to conceal their crime. Christopher Dontel remained behind bars for more than 4 years, watching as Jackson's case progressed toward trial. Then, on December 4, 2024, just days before jury selection for his own murder trial, the dynamic shifted dramatically. Dontel accepted a plea agreement, pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. The murder charge against him was dropped, capping his sentence at 20 years. The deal carried one non-negotiable condition. Dontel had to testify truthfully against Megan Jackson. As investigators continued building the murder case, they stumbled upon evidence of another horrifying crime. Authorities executed a search warrant at Megan Jackson's home on River's Edge Drive in Conway on November 19, 2020. What they discovered inside added a horrifying new dimension to the case. Police found Jackson's children locked inside bedrooms with no means of escape. The doors were secured with electronic locks, but Jackson had removed the batteries, disabling any internal override mechanism. There were no interior doorknobs. The doors could only be opened by entering a code on an external keypad, a code the children did not know. The bedroom windows offered no escape either. Jackson had installed small padlocks on them and manipulated the window slide tracks, making it impossible to open them. The children were completely trapped. Because they couldn't leave their rooms to use the bathroom, the children were forced to urinate in whatever containers were available, jars, cups, anything they could find. One child told investigators they were fed only once per day. The conditions revealed severe neglect and possible starvation. One child, 13 years old, weighed only 50 pounds at the time police made contact, a weight suggesting severe malnutrition and long-term deprivation. The home had no heat, no food, and no working electricity. Jackson was immediately charged with 4 counts of unlawful neglect of a child or helpless person by a legal custodian. Social workers took custody of all the children. The discovery painted a chilling picture of Jackson's character, a woman capable of extraordinary cruelty, even toward her own children. 4.5 years after Gregory Rice's murder, Megan Jackson would finally face a jury. Megan Jackson's trial began on June 9, 2025 in Conway, South Carolina. Prosecutors argued Jackson orchestrated the entire crime by luring Gregory Rice to meet her on October 2nd. pulling the trigger herself, then enlisting Dontel to help conceal the body. The first witness called by them was Jackson's own daughter, 19-year-old Savannah Rice. Shaking and tearful on the stand, Savannah described her parents' rocky relationship marked by separation and infidelity, and how she discovered her mother's affair with Dontel by overhearing them together in the house.
At some point, did you come to know that your mother was having an affair with Christopher Dontel?
Yes, but not at first.
Okay. How did you find out about the affair?
I had some friends over and it was quiet. We went downstairs and we heard them having sex in their bedroom, and it just kept getting louder and louder. And the next day I asked her and she said, "I thought you knew."
The defense centered on a single devastating attack. Christopher Dontel could not be trusted. They hammered his plea deal that erased a life sentence and his clear incentive to blame Jackson entirely. Megan Jackson never confessed and never testified in her own defense. Her attorneys insisted the prosecution's case rested too heavily on circumstantial evidence and the word of a desperate co-conspirator. Everything hinged on whether the jury would believe the man who helped dispose of the body. The courtroom fell silent when Christopher Dontel took the stand. The former deputy coroner, now the prosecution's star witness under his plea deal, faced his former lover across the room. Dontel laid out the affair, admitted buying the supplies from Lowe's, and confessed to helping transport and dispose of Gregory Rice's body. But he insisted Jackson pulled the trigger. According to his account, on the night of October 2nd, 2020, Jackson lured Gregory to an apartment complex. An argument erupted in her van. She opened the door and fired multiple shots, striking him in the head, torso, hip, and thigh. He told jurors Jackson then demanded his help to load the body, store it temporarily, and eventually dump it in the Little PD River. Under relentless cross-examination, defense attorneys tore into his credibility, highlighting every motive he had to shift full blame onto Jackson. After 8 tiring days of testimony, the jury finally retired to deliberate Megan Jackson's fate on the afternoon of June 17, 2025. After only a few hours of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty of murder. Under South Carolina law, the judge had no discretion. He imposed the mandatory sentence immediately: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Weeks later, on July 14, 2025, Christopher Dontel returned for his own sentencing.
Greg Rice's and Megan Jackson's 4 kids have become an extension of my family. And knowing how badly, knowing how badly they were hurt and that I played a role in causing any pain at all to them is something I'm going to struggle with for the rest of my life. To simply keep saying I'm sorry just doesn't feel right. And I don't know that I can effectively articulate the depth of the combination of love, pain, regret, and compassion I feel for those kids and for everyone who loved Greg. I'm sorry for having any involvement with Megan. Virtually everything about her is the exact opposite of everything I've ever been and stood for. As embarrassing as it is to admit, I chose to overlook everything bad about her because she was spending thousands of dollars a month on my family, and because she had convinced me that she was basically going to make all mine and my family's dreams come true. In retrospect, it's clear that my involvement with her was founded on deception and selfishness. This led to a snowball of poor decisions on my part, infidelity, and to Megan having a grip on every aspect of my life. If not for these poor decisions on my part, I know that I would not have been with her on the night of October 2nd, would not have been in the position to be an accessory after the fact, and would not have had any part in causing any suffering to anyone.
Judge Benjamin Culberson noted, It had taken the former deputy coroner nearly 1,500 days to accept any responsibility for his role in the crime. Despite emotional pleas from his wife, Erica, the court imposed the maximum allowed under his plea agreement, 20 years in prison.
Testimony would give you a lesser sentence. And I'll tell you that based on your testimony, the fact that you pled to an accessory and a co-conspirator is your lesser sentence. You very easily could be right where Ms. Jackson is, doing life in prison. I will give you the credit for the time that you have served. You're entitled to that by statute. But as to the accessory after the fact, it's the sentence of this court that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 15 years. And as for the conspiracy, it's a sentence of this court that you be sentenced to the maximum again of 5 years, and those are to run consecutive. Mr. Dontel, I understand that you're here and want to give the closure to the Rice family, and I hope that this does that. And I hope that ultimately, when you get out, that you will remember what you've done to your own family and what you've done to the Rice family. But that's the sentence of this court. Thank you.
Today, both killers remain behind bars, while the victims they left behind try to rebuild. Megan Jackson remains incarcerated at Camille Griffin Graham Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, where she will spend the rest of her life. Christopher Dontel is serving his sentence at a South Carolina correctional facility. The 4 children continue to live with the trauma of losing their father at the hands of their own mother, while also processing the years of abuse they endured in her care.
This is 42-year-old Ryan Cooper. In the early hours of June 18, 2021, Ryan was shot twice in the face while seated in his recliner inside his rural Iowa home. There were no signs of forced entry and no weapon was found at the scene. His 3 young children slept upstairs, undisturbed. At first, investigators believed they were dealing with a burglary gone wrong, but from the moment deputies stepped inside the house, the scene did not behave like a burglary at all. The first version of what happened that morning didn't come from investigators. It came from inside the house, with the 911 call made by Karina Cooper, Ryan's wife. In the call, Karina claimed she woke to gunshots and saw a man in a camouflage jacket fleeing the house. When Tama County deputies arrived at the Cooper home in rural Traer, Iowa, around 4:30 a.m., they found Karina on top of her husband's blood-soaked body in the living room recliner. Ryan had been killed at close range with a .22 handgun. The weapon was missing and would never be recovered. But to understand how Ryan Cooper ended up executed in his own home, investigators would need to trace back months to a secret affair that turned deadly. Ryan Cooper, 42, was a devoted husband and father in Traer, Iowa, a small farming town where he worked the land and raised 3 children with Karina. Friends and family described him as hardworking, family-oriented, and reliable, a man who prioritized his kids and community above all. That image of stability, however, was already cracking behind closed doors. Ryan's sister, the family farm's bookkeeper, testified that by September 2020, Karina had already been removed from the farm's phone plan, signaling an emotional and financial fracture long before the affair began.
How are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
How are you employed?
I am employed by Cooper Farms, Inc. as the accountant, bookkeeper.
So as the accountant for Cooper Farms, what are you doing?
I pay the bills, handle all the bank transactions, payroll, loan payments, expenses, all that kind of thing.
Okay, could you just explain the structure of Cooper Farms?
It is a family farm business. It's been in the family for several generations. We have we own land and farm that with corn and bean crops. We also do some trucking. We also have livestock and invest in livestock as well.
So the different things that you just discussed is obviously some land, there's some cattle, there's trucks, farm equipment as well.
Yep, farm equipment, land.
And is that all owned then by Cooper Farms?
The land is partially owned directly by my father. The farm corporation owns land. The majority, safe to say, all of the equipment is owned by the corporation. There's also a few acreages that are with homes that are owned by my dad as well.
Before you talked about the fact that Cooper Farms owned 1846 K Avenue and some other homes, did Cooper Farms cover other expenses for Ryan and Karina?
Yes, Cooper Farms paid for usually a portion of their work/personal vehicle because it was used for work. He would not have had any expenses related to property taxes, property insurance, utilities. Also, the corporation paid for the cell phone bill.
Without telling me anything that anyone else said, was there a time based on the business records of Cooper Farms that you stopped, or Cooper Farms stopped paying for Karina's cell phone plan?
The September 2020 bill had her number removed.
Following that date then, if I understand correctly, Cooper Farms was no longer receiving billing statements including call detail information for Karina Cooper.
Yep, September 9th was the last.
By early 2021, cracks had widened. Karina Cooper, a hairstylist at a local salon, began confiding in clients about marital frustrations, financial strains from farming life, and feeling trapped in her role as a mother. It was in that emotional space that someone new entered her orbit. Around this time, one regular client stood out: Houston William Hank Danker, a 27-year-old single man from the area. What started as casual salon conversations evolved into a close friendship. Karina began cutting Houston's hair at his home, and soon they connected on Snapchat, an app that automatically deletes messages. Their exchanges quickly turned flirtatious, with Karina sharing explicit photos and complaining about Ryan.
Can you tell me about your relationship with Houston?
Danker?
Yeah.
My friend?
Okay. And I'm going to be blunt with you. I'm going to be forward with you. The only reason we ask is Aaron made mention about maybe Ryan seeing something on your Snapchat. Not that was Houston, but maybe there was something with your Snapchat.
Last fall, there was a Snapchat that wasn't even meant for me.
Okay, tell me about
Supposedly, Ryan saw it, not me. And he told me about it. It was something about a married woman.
Houston positioned himself as her confidant, offering emotional support and hints of something more. What followed was not impulsive, but gradual and deliberate. This friendship would soon spiral into an affair fueled by obsession, jealousy, and plans that investigators described as a calculated bid to eliminate Ryan and start a new life together. As Karina and Houston's messages grew more intimate, their conversations shifted from complaints about Ryan to explicit fantasies of life without him and chilling dehumanization.
And then the Snapchatting, did that kind of coincide with watching the kids, or how did that?
That's where that picked up. Was
there for a while, Karina, she was just my, cut my hair, whatever. And then, I started having kids, and she, I honestly needed fucking help, is what, and I wasn't telling her, I wasn't telling her I needed help, but I was kind of,
Right.
And then she offered, and that's where I would say that's where the chatting started, the friendship,
And then you described it as what, you're her gay friend, or how do you describe it?
The best way I could put it is, just a gay best friend,
Yeah, so,
like when everybody around Traer was saying, oh, Houston's nailing her or whatever, I'm sitting there like, nope,
So, are we gonna, and I don't know, if you drink a lot or she drinks a lot, is there, I think back to college, when we would get a little out of hand, like we'd send like a dick pic to somebody or something. Just is there going to be anything like that between you and Karina, or anything that you're like, well, look, we were friends, but maybe there might be something that the police might think is inappropriate. But we're not finding anything like that. Okay.
By spring 2021, the focus had shifted to Ryan's $500,000 life insurance policy. In messages to Houston, Karina referred to her husband only as a sperm donor, revealing total emotional detachment. She confided about wanting to leave her marriage, start fresh, even pursue IVF to have children together. Houston reciprocated, calling their bond a soulmate connection and expressing jealousy over Karina's family life. What began as emotional escape hardened into intent. Friends provided haunting foreshadowing. Ryan's closest friend, Brian Morrison, testified that in fall 2020, nearly a year before the murder, Karina explicitly told Ryan, "I could shoot you in the face." Another witness recalled hearing a similar threat as early as 2018. At the time, the words passed as anger. In hindsight, they sounded like warning shots. Digital forensics recovered deleted threads showing Karina sending photos and videos, with Houston responding possessively. Through a combination of device forensics and data recovery, investigators pieced together thousands of messages that painted a disturbing picture. Messages turned darker. Karina wished for Ryan to have an accident on the farm, while Houston mused about taking care of problems. One exchange had Karina asking if Houston could handle it, met with his assurance that he would. By then, the boundary between fantasy and planning had disappeared. Days before the murder, Karina told her teenage son that he could no longer sleep on the living room couch, his usual spot where Ryan would later be found. Prosecutors would argue that she was clearing the kill zone to ensure no witnesses. Investigators also found Google searches on Karina's devices for how to shoot someone without getting caught, and local gun shops, alongside Houston's purchases of .22 ammunition, matching the murder weapon's caliber. Their meetups escalated too: secret drives, hotel stays, and Houston visiting the Cooper farm under the guise of friendship. Everything investigators later uncovered pointed in the same direction: preparation. But the tipping point came in the weeks before June 17th, when messages showed them coordinating alibis and Houston reminding Karina to remember those shell casings, words that would echo chillingly at trial. Armed with a digital trail of obsession and planning, investigators reconstructed the final hours of Ryan Cooper's life. Those final hours would unfold quietly, inside the same house where nothing seemed out of place. On June 17, 2021, Ryan and Karina attended a local event together, appearing as a normal couple to outsiders. They returned home around 8 p.m., put their 3 children to bed upstairs, and settled into the living room. Phone records showed Karina exchanging messages with Houston throughout the evening, including discussions about meeting later. Around midnight, Karina's phone activity spiked. Deleted messages recovered later included Houston's instructions on cleanup. Location data placed Houston's vehicle near the Cooper property multiple times that night, though he claimed it was a coincidence. By then, investigators say the plan was already in motion. At approximately 4 a.m. on June 18th, Ryan was shot while seated in his recliner, execution-style wounds from point-blank range using a .22 handgun owned by Karina, but missing from the home. Only one shell casing was found despite 2 shots fired, suggesting a cleanup attempt where one casing was removed but the second overlooked. Prosecutors argued Karina intentionally rubbed her face in Ryan's blood to mask potential gunshot residue. Blood spatter patterns on her clothing and skin confirmed she was present during or immediately after the shooting, consistent with being in close proximity when the fatal shots were fired. What appeared chaotic was, investigators said, carefully staged. With the crime scene pointing to staging and Karina's alibi crumbling under forensics, deputies shifted focus to her digital life and the man on the other end of those obsessive messages. What began as a baffling home shooting unraveled under digital forensics, revealing Karina and Houston's months-long plot through recovered messages, phone pings, and suspicious searches. Tama County Sheriff's deputies executed warrants on Karina's and Houston's phones, recovering thousands of deleted messages. When confronted, Karina claimed her account had been hacked. Forensics tied the activity directly to her devices. Investigators also discovered that Karina's Snapchat account was remotely deleted just days after the murder, after her phone had already been seized. The messages did not just suggest an affair, they mapped intent. A major point of contention emerged around a one-word message sent in the hours before the murder. Go. Prosecutors called it the green light for murder. Karina's defense insisted she sent go to sleep. A digital forensics expert testified those additional words could not have existed or been deleted without metadata traces. Cell data confirmed Houston's phone near the Cooper home multiple times on June 17th and 18th, contradicting his claim of sleeping at home. Phone records showed Danker's device passed the Cooper home several times between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on June 17th, reinforcing the state's theory that he was surveilling the property before the attack. Karina's Google history included queries like, "Does life insurance pay if suicide?" and "gunshot residue timeline," while financial records showed she received the insurance payout in December 2021. Piece by piece, the theory of an intruder collapsed. A key break came when salon coworkers reported Karina confiding about wanting Ryan gone and praising Houston as her escape. Houston's truck yielded trace fibers matching the Cooper home. Karina's initial interview raised suspicions as her story shifted and she minimized the affair.
Why did you stop cutting his hair?
Because I had and I didn't want him around, and I didn't want that chance of that happening ever again.
Did Houston talk about killing Ryan?
Several times.
Did you ever take him seriously?
No, I thought he was full of crap.
And when the police get there, why didn't you tell them Houston shot my husband?
I was so scared. I was scared. I was panicked.
More than 2.5 years passed as prosecutors built their case, but in February 2024, authorities arrested Karina for first-degree murder, followed by Houston for aiding and abetting. The evidence proved no random intruder, but a lover's conspiracy. Ryan's 3 children were placed with family members as the case moved forward, spared from further trauma as their mother awaited trial. Nearly 3 years after Ryan's murder, Karina Cooper faced a Tama County jury in July 2025. The case prosecutors presented was built almost entirely from her own words. They used her messages and lies to argue she orchestrated the killing with Houston's help. The trial opened with crime scene photos, the 911 call, and body cam footage, followed by digital forensics experts detailing the recovered messages, including the sperm donor remark and instructions about shell casings. Prosecutors highlighted the insurance policy and Karina's December 2021 payout. Their teenage son testified that days before the murder, his mother banned him from sleeping on the living room couch. Salon coworkers confirmed Karina's confessions of hating her marriage and idolizing Houston. Deputies recounted her inconsistent intruder story, versus forensic reality. Forensic reconstruction showed the shooter knelt beside the recliner when firing, with trajectory and backsplatter placing Karina at that position. In early July 2025, Karina took the stand during the trial, claiming Houston manipulated and threatened her into participating in the plot. It was the first time the jury heard her version of events directly. She painted herself as a victim, trapped in an abusive relationship with Houston, who she claimed controlled her through fear and manipulation. But under cross-examination, prosecutors confronted her with her "handle it" message, her hacked account defense, and the "go" dispute. Her breakdown while reading the chats undermined her victim narrative. Ryan's family delivered searing impact statements.
Their plan to murder my brother was just an item on their checklist, just an agenda item on their way to building a dream life together. A sick, disgusting plan to achieve their dreams, but what about my brother's dreams? Ryan dreamed of being a farmer every day of his life. Ryan dreamed of being a farmer like his dad, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather. I was 10 years older than Ryan, and remember so much about him as a young boy on the farm. I remember numerous times he would stand at the front door watching the tractors and equipment roll in and out of our farm, just hoping one would stop, open the door, and motion for him to come out and hop in. As Ryan approached his teenage years, he could not get home from school fast enough during planting and harvest season, knowing there was a seat waiting for him in one of the tractors. After high school, Ryan went straight to working on the farm. He had followed Dad and Grandpa around for years, and now it was time to use the knowledge and skills he had taken in and continue on in the family legacy.
After deliberations, the jury convicted Karina of first-degree murder in mid-July 2025. With Karina convicted, attention turned to Houston Denker. Unlike Karina, Houston would never face a jury. In August 2025, shortly before his jury selection was set to begin, Houston pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, admitting to planning and participating in Ryan's execution. Though he maintained that Karina was the one who pulled the trigger, he acknowledged his role in orchestrating the murder, providing support and helping cover up the crime. His admission sealed both their fates. In September 2025, Chief Judge Lars Anderson sentenced Karina to mandatory life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Several weeks later, in early October, Houston received the same sentence. At Houston's sentencing, the judge called the killing a premeditated execution, ensuring both would spend the rest of their lives behind bars for a murder driven by lust, greed, and betrayal. When 28-year-old Jennifer Rothwell disappeared on a snowy November morning, it looked like a routine missing person case. She left home for work, but never arrived. By that evening, her car was found abandoned less than a mile from home. Her husband, 28-year-old Bo Rothwell, did what any worried spouse would do. He called the police, he posted online, he joined the search for her. But as detectives retraced her final hours, there were uncovered tensions inside the marriage that few people knew about, and a trail of evidence Bo never expected them to find. What begins as a search for a missing woman is about to take a deeply disturbing turn. It all starts on November 12, 2019, around 9:44 p.m. Rothwell told the dispatcher that his wife had left for work that morning around 6:20 a.m. because of bad weather predictions. Her co-workers had contacted him later in the day. Jennifer never showed up at the office. She had not called in, she was not answering her phone, and that just wasn't like her. To the dispatcher, Bo sounded composed, rational, and worried. He provided details methodically. He told them what time she had left, what she was wearing, and when he had last heard from her. Officers were dispatched immediately. When Crevcoeur police arrived at the Rothwell home, Bo met them at the door. He appeared cooperative, explaining that this was completely out of character for Jennifer. She was responsible, reliable, and always in communication. Something had to be wrong. Earlier that evening, Jennifer's silver 2011 Hyundai had been found abandoned less than a mile from their home. Police had noticed it around 9:30 a.m. but merely tagged it as an abandoned vehicle. The car was in perfect condition with no signs of struggle. Her purse was missing, but her phone was inside. Officers asked if they could look around. Bo allowed them a cursory walkthrough. Everything appeared normal. To the responding officers, it looked like a straightforward missing person case. But then something shifted. When officers asked to search Bo's phone, he refused. When they asked to examine his truck and her car, he declined. When they requested a voluntary DNA sample, he said no. And then he asked for an attorney. For officers who regularly deal with frantic relatives, this was unusual. Most spouses would hand over anything, desperate for any lead. The combination of an abandoned car, a missing pregnant woman, and a husband who immediately shut down all access raised immediate concerns. But publicly, Bo played a different role. The next day, he posted on Facebook. He wrote, "Some of you may have heard already, but my wife Jennifer went missing last night. I've filed a police report and the search is ongoing. Please, if you hear of anything or have any information, it would be greatly appreciated." He joined search efforts, distributed flyers, and gave every appearance of a desperate husband. Privately, though, investigators were already asking different questions. They wanted to know who Jennifer Rothwell was, and more importantly, they wanted to know who the man claiming to be her worried husband really was. Jennifer Rothwell was a process engineer at DuPont's Chesterfield office in St. Louis. Born November 20, 1990 in Overland Park, Kansas, friends and coworkers described her as organized, kind, driven, and deeply reliable. When Jennifer failed to show up for work on November 12th, her DuPont coworkers immediately knew something was wrong. They got in their cars and drove through the area looking for her. At 8 p.m., they contacted Bo to tell him they found her car abandoned. Jennifer and Bo had met as lab partners at the University of Missouri, Columbia in 2010. Both were engineering majors. They bonded over vacations with her family and a mutual love of Game of Thrones. They graduated in 2013, got engaged in 2014, and married on September 26, 2015. By 2018, they were both thriving professionally. Jennifer was up for a promotion. In April 2019, they bought a new house with a good-sized backyard. They were ready to start their family. But starting that family had not been easy. In December 2018, Jennifer was diagnosed with endometriosis, a painful condition that can make pregnancy extremely difficult. Jennifer leaned in harder. She tracked her ovulation cycles meticulously, scheduled their intimate life around fertility windows, and managed doctor's appointments and treatments. Over time, their relationship became clinical and regimented, but Jennifer pushed forward. Month after month, the pregnancy tests came back negative. And then, on October 26, 2019, it finally happened. Jennifer found out she was pregnant. Friends who saw them at a charity function in October thought all was well. To the outside world, this should have been the happiest moment of their lives. But as investigators would soon discover, something had been terribly wrong inside the Rothwell home, and the first clue would come from an unlikely source. It would come from Bo's own trash. On Wednesday, November 13th, the same day Bo was posting on Facebook asking for help, he made a critical mistake. He put his trash out for collection. Police do not need a search warrant to look through garbage once it has been placed in a public area. When investigators went through those trash bags, they found rubber gloves, used paper towels, and a receipt from Deerberg's grocery store dated November 11th. The receipt showed purchases of bleach, carpet cleaner, and paper towels. Police pulled surveillance footage. The video showed Bo shopping during a significant snow event on the evening of November 11th. This was the same evening he claimed he and Jennifer had been home together watching cooking shows. Armed with this evidence, detectives obtained a search warrant. That evening, just 5 hours after Bo's Facebook plea, they returned. This time, they were not asking permission. The moment investigators entered, they were hit with an overwhelming smell. It was the smell of bleach. The main floor appeared unremarkable, but when they descended into the basement, they found what Bo had been desperately trying to hide. At the bottom of the stairs, crime scene technicians noticed a large, discolored area of carpet that was still damp with cleaning products. The nearby drywall showed visible damage, scuffs, and impact marks. In the carpet fibers, they found strands of human hair. Under forensic light and chemical tests, the discolored carpet lit up. It was blood. There was a significant amount of it. Then investigators noticed a small basement window that was wide open, letting frigid November air pour in. There was no logical reason to have a window open in 17-degree snowy weather unless someone needed to ventilate the overpowering chemical smell. In the garage, Bo's 2015 GMC Canyon pickup truck had that same sharp odor inside. Days later, lab results confirmed the blood was human. DNA analysis matched it to Jennifer using her parents' genetic profiles. The detectives had found their crime scene, but they still hadn't found Jennifer, and they didn't have answers about what had driven Bo to this point. Those answers would come from his digital life. While crime scene technicians processed the basement, another team was digging into the digital lives of Jennifer and Bo Rothwell. What they found painted two very different pictures of the same marriage. Jennifer's phone told a heartbreaking story. In the days before she disappeared, her browser history showed searches like, "What to do if your husband is upset you are pregnant," "Husband doesn't care," and 7 secrets your husband doesn't want to tell you about your pregnancy. Here was a woman who had fought through endometriosis and finally achieved the pregnancy she had been working toward, and her response was not joy, it was fear about her husband's reaction. But why would Bo be upset? They had been trying to have a baby. The answer was in Bo's phone. Working backward through Bo's communications, investigators discovered that while Jennifer had been fighting to build their family, Bo had been having a double life. By May or early June 2019, Bo had started an affair. Text messages showed an ongoing relationship filled with declarations of love and discussions about what he should do about his marriage. On October 27th, just one day after Jennifer told him she was pregnant, Bo messaged his mistress and attempted to end their relationship. He told her that he had been thinking about divorcing Jennifer for months. He said he thought he would have had the courage to go through a divorce by now. But 2 days later, Bo resumed messaging her. When the mistress said she missed him, Bo revealed why he had tried to end things. His wife was pregnant, but he wanted to be with her instead. What came next was chilling. Bo told his mistress, "This is the last thing I want. I never felt more regretful of anything in my entire life, and part of me wants this pregnancy to not work out." Then, on October 30th, Bo laid out 3 options for himself. Option 1 was to say goodbye and move on completely. Option 2 was to tell Jennifer about the affair and ask for a divorce, then let her decide if she wanted to keep the child. If she did, he wrote, "I will have to give up a lot of my time and money supporting this kid while trying to start a life with you." Option 3 was to wait and see how the pregnancy goes. If there's a miscarriage or something, I'll leave her after that and be with you. When his mistress asked which option he preferred, Bo responded, "I guess 3 if I'm being selfish." Investigators realized Bo had systematically analyzed his options and chosen to wait. He was hoping that nature might solve his problem. Meanwhile, Bo continued playing the role of expectant father. He and Jennifer discussed decorating a nursery, purchased supplies for a pregnancy calendar, and researched health insurance plans. Behind Jennifer's back, Bo continued the relationship right up until her death. He told his mistress, "I'm addicted to you," and made plans to see her. The messages were damning, but investigators were about to find something even more disturbing. Following Bo's digital trail to his workplace, investigators obtained access to files from his computer. Among them was a handwritten document dated July 2019, months before Jennifer's disappearance. Bo had created a pros and cons list about leaving Jennifer for the other woman. Under benefits, he listed better sex life, more respect, more appreciative, a proven mother, and potentially nice fam. Following this, Bo wrote a question. He wrote, "Is the cost too high?" He framed his decision as a cost-benefit analysis. Under negatives, he listed, "Probably limit one kid. Jennifer and her family. Have to move. Half my assets/money. Lost most, if not all of my friends. Trust is shaken/tainted. My family's disappointment, and take on mistress's kid with his problem." There was no mention of love or commitment. There were just financial assets, family reactions, and social consequences weighted against the new relationship. This was not just a document. It was a window into how Bo Rothwell's mind worked. His marriage was a problem to be solved through calculation. And now Jennifer was missing. Her blood was in the basement, and Bo was refusing to cooperate. But investigators were not done. What they discovered next would show that Bo had not simply snapped, he had been preparing. As investigators dug deeper into the hours before Jennifer's death, a pattern emerged. On November 11th, Bo messaged his mistress, telling her he had trouble sleeping because he had a lot on his mind. He told her, "It was just about our situation. Really, I was stressing more about the other side of that." They continued messaging throughout the day. Then, at 9:04 p.m., Bo sent his mistress a message. He wrote, "I'm not feeling well. I think it's the lunch I had earlier. I'm going to bed early. Sweet dreams, darling. I love you." But Bo did not go to bed. Surveillance footage showed him shopping shortly after that text. The receipt showed exactly what he purchased. He bought paper towels, bleach, and carpet cleaner. Later that evening, surveillance captured him returning. He had come back to purchase nitrile gloves. This was not a panicking husband scrambling after an unexpected tragedy. This was someone acquiring materials for a cleanup before anything had happened. But the most damning evidence was still to come. Location data from Bo's phone would show exactly what he did after Jennifer died. On the morning of November 12th, Bo's phone told a story of calculated movements. Data showed him traveling along the route Jennifer normally took to work. He had driven her Hyundai and abandoned it on the roadside. But his phone also showed travel in the opposite direction. It showed him traveling northwest toward rural Lincoln County, to remote areas far from their suburban home. Investigators realized Bo had been moving between locations with purpose. He had staged Jennifer's vehicle to look like she had disappeared on her commute. Then he had driven somewhere else. He had driven somewhere isolated. The question was no longer whether Bo was involved. The question was where he had taken Jennifer. On November 14, 2019, 5 hours after Bo's Facebook post, detectives arrested him. In interviews, Bo admitted to marital problems and acknowledged the affair, but he would not say what happened or where Jennifer was. Detectives laid everything out. They showed him the forensic evidence. They showed him the shopping trips. They showed him Jennifer's desperate searches. They showed him the affair. They showed him the 3 calculated options. They showed him the cost-benefit analysis. They showed him the location data. Every piece of the puzzle was there. The detectives made it clear that they knew what had happened. The only question was whether Bo would tell them where Jennifer was. For 4 days, Bo said nothing. But on November 18th, under the weight of overwhelming evidence, he finally broke. Bo Rothwell told investigators where they could find Jennifer's body. He led them about 45 miles northwest into Lincoln County near Hawk Point. They traveled down gravel roads until they reached a wooded area along Highway 61. There, in a shallow ravine about 20 feet from the road, search teams found human remains. The body was nude and partially covered with leaves and sticks. The head was wrapped in a plastic bag secured with tape. On November 19th, the medical examiner confirmed the remains were Jennifer Rothwell. The autopsy revealed the brutal reality. Jennifer had suffered multiple blunt force injuries to her head from being struck at least twice with a heavy object. The impacts were severe enough to fracture her skull. She was approximately 6 weeks pregnant The fetus died with her. Her death was ruled a homicide caused by blunt force trauma. The charges against Bo were upgraded to first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, and abandonment of a corpse. But even with Jennifer's body recovered, critical questions remained. What exactly had happened on the night of November 11th? Had Bo planned to kill his wife, or had he simply lost control? Those questions would not be answered for more than 2 years, and when they were, the answers would come from Bo himself from the witness stand. In April 2022, after more than 2 years of delays, Bo Rothwell went on trial in St. Louis County Circuit Court. He faced 3 charges. He was charged with first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, and abandonment of a corpse. The central legal question was stark. Had Bo deliberately and planned the killing, or had he simply snapped in the heat of an argument? The answer would determine whether he would spend the rest of his life in prison or whether he might someday walk free. Bo's defense strategy was clear. He would admit to killing Jennifer, but he would argue it was not premeditated. It was a crime of passion, not calculation. To make that case, Bo would have to take the stand. In a move that surprised many, Bo Rothwell testified in his own defense. For the first time publicly, he described what happened on the night of November 11th, 2019. His story contradicted everything he had told police initially. On that Monday night, he testified he'd decided to tell Jennifer about the affair. He said he never really believed in divorce, but felt compelled to come clean and throw himself at her mercy. When he confessed, Jennifer's reaction was explosive. An argument erupted. She demanded answers. She asked who this woman was. She asked how long it had been going on. She asked if he ever intended to end it. Bo refused to give details. Then, according to his testimony, Jennifer said something that shocked him. She claimed she might also be seeing someone. She said she was not sure the baby was his. Prosecutors would later point out it was completely unsupported by evidence. A paternity test performed after the murder proved definitively that Bo was the father. But on the stand, Bo insisted that that was the moment everything changed. He stood up from the kitchen table. He saw a rubber mallet he'd used to hang decorations. He grabbed it, walked behind Jennifer while she remained seated, and struck her in the right temple with enough force to draw blood. Jennifer stumbled up, trying to run. She headed towards the garage door, attempting to escape, but Bo chased her. They struggled at the top of the basement stairs, and he struck her again. This time, he fractured her skull. Jennifer fell down the stairs, unconscious and unresponsive. Bo described the attack as happening in a red haze of rage. He claimed that he did not think through what he was doing. He said it was pure emotion, pure impulse. It was a compelling story. It was the story of a man pushed to his breaking point who lost control. But prosecutors were ready, and they had evidence that told a very different story. Prosecutors systematically dismantled Bo's claim of a spontaneous red haze. They presented the evidence investigators had uncovered, the shopping trips for bleach and gloves hours before the murder, Jennifer's fearful internet searches, the affair he'd maintained while she struggled to conceive, the 3 options he had calculated, the cost-benefit analysis where he had asked himself, is the cost too high? This was not a man who suddenly snapped. This was a man who had been weighing his options for months. Then, prosecutors walked the jury through what happened after Jennifer died. Bo did not call for help. He did not attempt CPR. Instead, he executed a methodical cover-up. He cleaned the crime scene with the supplies he had pre-purchased. He drove Jennifer's body to a remote location and disposed of it. He staged her car to look like it had disappeared on her commute. He used her phone to create a fake digital trail. He went to work as normal. He sent loving messages to his mistress, and he joined search parties while knowing exactly where Jennifer's body lay. Prosecutors argued that the pregnancy had trapped Bo into a future he had been trying to escape. He did not want the financial hit of divorce. He did not want the family disappointment. and when he confessed the affair on November 11th with no easy way out, he made a choice. He had already bought the cleaning supplies, and when the moment came, he eliminated the problem. After hearing all the evidence and the testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they returned to the courtroom, their decision was clear. They found Bo Rothwell guilty of first-degree murder. They also convicted him of tampering with physical evidence and abandonment of a corpse. The jury had rejected the defense's argument entirely. The evidence showed a man who had thought about what he was doing, who had made choices. And those choices had cost Jennifer her life. For Jennifer's family, who sat through weeks of testimony, the verdict brought a measure of justice. Jennifer would have been 29, just 9 days after she was killed on November 20th, 2019. In July 2022, Bo Rothwell returned to court for sentencing. Under Missouri law, a conviction of first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. The judge imposed that sentence along with 4 years for each of the remaining charges. One term would run consecutive, the other concurrent. Bo Rothwell, now 31 years old, would spend the rest of his life in the Missouri Department of Corrections. He would never be eligible for parole.
My friend is staying with me, and I just walked in, and she's laying on the bathroom floor, and there's blood everywhere. And I don't know what happened.
Is she awake?
She's not awake. There's blood all over her face and all on the back of her head.
Is she breathing?
No. Yeah.
Listen carefully. I'm going to tell you how to do chest compressions. Count out loud so I can count with you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Her brain is leaching. Do I stop? I don't know.
This frantic voice belongs to Caitlin Cash, who had just walked into the bloody aftermath of a meticulously planned murder. What would unfold next was a chilling tale of obsession, betrayal, and murder, and at the heart of it all was a twisted fact that would spiral into a deadly game of cat and mouse.
Whatever happened, this was a cold-blooded killing.
Whoever did this, they went there for one reason. This was personal. Who would hate Mariah so much that they would want her dead?
As investigators dug deeper, the one name kept surfacing over and over: Caitlin Armstrong, a woman whose desperation to preserve the life she built would soon push her to terrifying extremes. What began as a tragic homicide soon escalated into a nationwide manhunt, and then a global chase for a fugitive willing to do whatever it took to disappear, including altering her appearance and adopting a new identity. It all began on the night of May 11th, 2022 at 9:56 p.m. when police were dispatched to the home of Caitlin Cash on the 1700 block of Maple Avenue in Austin, Texas. Cash had just returned home from dinner, only to discover her friend, 25-year-old Anna Mariah Mo Wilson, lying lifeless in a pool of blood.
Austin police!
Do I stop? I don't know what happened. I just walked in on her. Yeah, they're here.
Okay, I'll let you go. You can talk to them, okay?
You guys gonna stick with him?
When officers entered the apartment, a chilling sight confronted them.
During the exam of the decedent on scene, we discovered that she possibly had 2 gunshot wounds to her face and head area. While examining her hair, we felt something hard, and it ended up being a fired projectile that had passed through her head. We did locate a gunshot wound that appeared to go through her chest and pass through the front, through her back, and into the floor below her.
It was the third wound that stood out most to detectives. A clean through and through, fired while Mo was already on the ground.
The first 2 shots were fired from a distance away. Based on the fired cartridge case that was right near the decedent, it appeared that someone had stood over the decedent and shot her directly through the chest.
One of the bullets had even torn through her index finger.
I observed a wound on one of her hands that appeared to be a small, maybe some type of grazing wound or cut?
It appeared as though whenever the perpetrator fired a gunshot, that Mariah was holding her hand, trying to stop this bullet from striking her in the head.
Detectives quickly concluded this wasn't just a homicide. It was a cold, calculated execution.
Somebody standing over her and shooting her after she had already been shot in the head makes it sound like it was personal, that there was some type of issue between the killer and the decedent.
Whoever did this, they went there for one reason, and that was to kill Mariah Wilson. Who would hate Mariah so much that they would want her dead?
To understand what they were really dealing with, detectives turned to one person who might hold the answers: Caitlin Cash. Cash told detectives that Mo Wilson was a professional cyclist from San Francisco. She had flown into Austin on May 10, 2022, and Cash had picked her up from the airport. Mo was in town to compete in a high-profile bike race scheduled for that weekend in Hico, Texas. But the race wasn't the only thing on her calendar.
Do you know if she's talking to anyone or any friends? I know you say you don't live here. I mean, she was with her friend Colin. Yeah. He was like, Colin Strickland. Strickland. Yeah. Yeah. They went swimming. She's staying really close with her family.
Did you see a gun or anything like that in there when you were there?
Is it Colin Strickland? Yeah. And you know where Colin Strickland lives or anything like that? His phone number. I can call him. Or I can give you his phone number. I got that information from you. You said, so she went swimming with Colin Strickland. Went swimming. I left to go have dinner with my friends. And then I came back. This is my house. This is my house. She's staying with me. What's Colin's favorite? Do you know? And Colin's is with 2 L, correct? Well, sort of one. You said that they went somewhere. Do you know where they went somewhere? No, I don't know where they went somewhere. When was the last time you spoke with her? When I left here at 5:30. She's not from the 2L.
First name is what?
Collins. And is it Strickland? Yeah. Strickland. Like land. You know how old is he? He's like 35, maybe. And you guys friends? You and him are friends or, like acquaintances? Yeah, he does. He's a cyclist. A cyclist? Yeah. Live in this area? He lives in South Austin. Do you know his address by any chance? No.
That connection immediately put Colin Strickland in the spotlight as a person of interest. Detectives planned to question him soon, but first, far more urgent matters demanded their attention. Cash told detectives that when she returned home from dinner, she noticed something odd. Mo's large bicycle travel bag was left at the bottom of the stairs, partially blocking the carport, but her $14,000 Specialized S-Works racing bike was nowhere to be found.
That's her bike. Yeah.
Oh, you're there.
So she's renting like this first unit right here. This is her vehicle. And these are her landlords. So this
bike cover is
yeah.
So where would her bike be at?
It would be right inside the door. Yeah.
Is her bike's inside the door? Is there a bike? Anywhere? You see a bike? She said she would put it right by the door. No bike. That's negative, Jobs.
With no signs of the bike inside the house either, officers quickly turned their attention to the wooded area nearby. After a brief search, they found Mo's bicycle just 68 feet south of Cash's residence, hidden in a dense cluster of bamboo.
Hey, come here. Somebody might be in here. This might be the bike, okay? But hold on. Somebody might be in here.
7579. Transport 1 sheriff's down. 2222.
Okay. All right. Over there. At 432, I located the bike.
It was late at night, and a female patrol officer who was securing part of the alleyway located a bicycle in an abandoned lot, partially concealed by some trees. We ended up taking swabs from the handlebar, from the crossbar, and from the seat of the bike, and those swabs were preserved for later DNA testing.
Since the bike was found so close to the scene, officers immediately suspected it had been deliberately placed there as a red herring. Someone wanted to throw them off course. And if the killer was calculated enough to stage evidence, then they were likely already taking steps to cover their tracks. That's why officers wasted no time and immediately began collecting evidence from the scene.
There were 3 spent cartridge cases that were on scene. 2 of them were in the kitchen, and the third one was inside of the bathroom next to where we found Mariah. The head stamp on these spent cartridge cases read JAG 9mm, all 3 of them.
The consistent markings on these casings confirmed that all 3 shots had come from the same weapon, pointing to a single shooter. To cover all bases, detectives needed to rule out Caitlin Cash as a potential suspect. So they brought her to the station for a gunshot residue test, which could determine whether she had recently fired a weapon or even been close to one. The results came back negative. Given that Mariah had been shot in a tight, confined space, detectives concluded that if Cash had pulled the trigger, clear traces of residue would have been present. Her alibi also checked out. She had indeed been with friends at the time of Mo's murder. With no evidence linking her to the shooting, Caitlin Cash was officially ruled out as a suspect. So investigators turned their attention to the last person known to have seen Mo Wilson alive, Colin Strickland. As they dug deeper, they discovered that Mo and Colin had spent the evening together, grabbing drinks at a nearby cafe.
Cash has an electronic door lock on her door. It's connected to an app that's on her phone. Anytime that someone uses a code to lock or unlock the door, a notification is sent to her phone. Cash said that at 5:55 p.m., she received a notification saying that her door was locked, indicating that Mariah was leaving to go out to dinner. At 8:36 p.m., Cash received another notification indicating the door was unlocked. This showed that Mariah had just arrived home.
But there was no record of the door being locked again, indicating Mo didn't secure it behind her. This made Colin a crucial lead. He could offer valuable insight into the events leading up to the murder. And if he had answers, they needed to get to him fast. But before bringing him in for questioning, investigators turned their attention to the neighborhood.
After the initial crime scene is broken down, we start going door to door in the apartments and houses around the scene of the crime. We're looking for video footage, cameras, doorbell cameras that might have caught somebody in the area.
As they reviewed hours of surveillance footage, they searched for anything that seemed out of place. That's when one particular vehicle caught their eye. A dark-colored Jeep Cherokee with a distinctive bike rack mounted on the back. It had been circling the neighborhood multiple times throughout the day. Then, at 8:37 p.m., just 1 minute after Wilson returned home, the Jeep was seen driving directly towards Cash's house.
This mysterious car is now seen slowing down at the bottom of these stairs. It appeared as though it started coming to a stop near where the stairs lead up to this front door.
From that moment on, no other vehicles passed by until emergency responders arrived at the scene. As investigators continued canvassing the neighborhood, they uncovered another chilling piece of evidence. A nearby home had a Ring doorbell camera installed, and what it had captured was haunting. Around 9:15 p.m., a scream echoed through the night, followed by 2 rapid gunshots. 6 seconds later, a third shot rang out, and at 9:17 p.m., a nearby CCTV camera captured the Jeep speeding away from the scene. This was a crucial breakthrough. Investigators now needed to determine who was behind the wheel and how they were connected to Mo Wilson. But there was a problem. The bike rack installed on the SUV had obscured the license plate, and the CCTV footage was too grainy to make out the driver's face. So the identity of the SUV's owner remained a mystery.
This car could potentially be my perpetrator responsible for the murder. But the windows on this SUV, they were dark. I didn't even know how many occupants were inside. Now I need to know who was inside of this car.
Still, at least the detectives had some leads to follow up on. They had the precise time of the murder, a suspect vehicle, and the name of the last person to see Mo Wilson alive. And all three would soon collide in a way no one saw coming. With the clock ticking, investigators knew they needed answers, and that meant talking to Colin Strickland. So on May 12, 2022, investigators went to Colin Strickland's home. As they pulled up, something immediately caught their attention.
As I approach Colin's house, I see this black SUV with chrome around the windows in the driveway. This SUV appeared to be the same vehicle that was seen in the surveillance footage, stopping or slowing down next to the apartment at 8:37 p.m.
At that moment, Colin Strickland became the prime suspect in Mo Wilson's murder. And yet, the story he was about to tell would complicate everything.
Colin, hey, so, do you know Anna? Mo. Anna Mo. Yeah, everybody calls her Mo. Monique, last name is Wilson. Rider, she's a gravel rider. Yes, I do. Okay, so there's really no easy way to say this, sir. So apparently last night she passed away. How did? And right now it's an open investigation, but it is being investigated as a homicide.
The officers deliberately withheld the details of how Mo died, a standard tactic when speaking to a potential suspect in a homicide. As they broke the news, Colin's face went blank, the color draining from it, as though life had just been sucked out of him. But something else was evident. Detectives noticed Colin struggling to make eye contact. Was it the shock of Mo's death, or was he avoiding their gaze because he knew more than he was letting on? Then, without any prompting from the detectives, Colin Strickland began to recount his last interaction with Mo Wilson.
We went to bed yesterday. We happened and then came over and I dropped her with a friend she's been staying at. Yeah. Great cash and yeah.
To get the full story, detectives asked Colin to come down to Austin Police Headquarters for a formal interview. He agreed without hesitation. Investigators started by asking him basic questions about his life, his relationships, and how he knew Mo Wilson. That's when they learned about Caitlin Armstrong, Colin's on-again, off-again girlfriend. The two had met in October 2018 on the dating app Hinge. On the surface, Colin and Caitlin appeared to be the perfect couple. They shared a passion for bike racing, had a close-knit circle of friends, and even started a business together. In 2021, when a plumbing accident forced Caitlin out of her apartment, she moved in with Colin. What was meant to be a temporary arrangement soon became permanent. To outsiders, it looked like a natural step forward in their relationship, but behind closed doors, things were beginning to unravel. Caitlin wanted a deeper commitment, but Colin wasn't ready to take that step. The disconnect between them grew, and the cracks in the relationship began to widen. By October 21st, 2021, things had reached a breaking point. They officially called off their relationship, but continued living under the same roof. After the breakup, both moved on quickly, showing little hesitation in pursuing new relationships. And that's when Mo Wilson entered the picture. Colin met Mo at a local cycling event, and the two instantly clicked. Their connection was undeniable, and before long, it evolved into something more. But what Colin didn't realize was just how deeply his growing bond with Mo was affecting Caitlin, and Caitlin wasn't subtle about it. Somehow, she got a hold of Mo's phone number. In the weeks that followed, Caitlin bombarded Mo with a series of threatening messages. warning her to stay away from Colin. The harassment became so intense that Mo had no choice but to block Caitlin's number, desperate for it to stop. She even asked Colin to intervene and get Caitlin to back off. Despite their undeniable chemistry, Mo and Colin's relationship was brief. According to Colin, they dated for just a week or two before he decided to end it. Not long after, he and Caitlin rekindled their relationship, despite Caitlin's unsettling behavior toward Mo. As for Mo and Caitlin, they went back to being just friends. Colin claimed he was merely helping Mo with sponsorships and career advice. But given Caitlin's volatile jealousy, Colin decided to keep his continued contact with Mo a secret, and he took deliberate steps to ensure Caitlin never found out.
I haven't gotten to the bottom of it, whether it was my girlfriend who would occasionally just like go into my phone and like block her.
Oh no.
Or if it was just literally just a glitch of like contacts. And this is more complexity, but I have it saved as a different name just because I
gotcha. You saved it as Christine.
Pretty much, I feel the right to have a friendship with this person without having like constant strife.
Why was it that you had to change the name from Mo in your phone?
Just because because in the past Caitlin has looked at my phone and I just didn't want to surface.
Basically, that would always start fights.
Exactly. Yeah.
She didn't really like it.
Exactly, and I feel like I should just be able to at least be friends with even despite having a history with like a peer that's in the same business I am, which is really rare. And it's hard to find kind of like people who understand this. It's a really like weird, strange, rare job. So people that you're friends with who are in the same like strange position of like having this really unusual job.
Yeah.
I just felt like it seemed like it would be easier. Strange. Strange.
Yeah. No.
My life is strange.
With a clear picture of the tangled dynamics between Colin, Mo, and Caitlin, detectives shifted their focus to the day of the murder. Colin admitted that he and Mo had been texting throughout the day, exchanging casual messages. At some point, they made plans to meet for drinks.
The last one was 5:43, and I was on my way to her place from far west on a motorcycle, and I just stopped the traffic. So I said, I'd been there before when she was staying there in October. To this address. I said, well, I'll get there, but then I went upstairs. She grabbed a couple things. We chatted for like 5 or 10 minutes. Just hadn't seen each other in a while. So then we went down to the motorcycle. She got the helmet, then we rode to Deep Eddy.
Mm-hmm.
We went swimming for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes, pretty short.
Okay.
And then we had parked in the central parking lot of Deep Eddy, and we just walked. Full Burger is adjacent to it. I'm not sure when we left. I wasn't texting, but it was before dark. It was probably 6:30.
Later, while reviewing his messages with detectives, Colin clarified that he had dropped Mo off at around 8:30 p.m. Based on that timeline, they likely left Pool Burger sometime between 7:45 and 8 p.m.
We got back on the motorcycle in the Deep Eddy parking lot. We drove via 15th Street all the way to 35, went up to MLK, and then went over and I went up took Chestnut and then went up the back alley and stopped right at the base of a staircase that goes up to the place she's staying.
Okay.
And we said a pretty brief goodbye there. I took the helmet because I only had one. I was riding without a helmet. She grabbed her backpack from my pannier, and I didn't actually like watch her go up the stairs, as I remember.
Mm-hmm.
After dropping Mo off, Colin rode his motorcycle northbound through the alleyway until he reached East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. At 8:36 p.m., while stopped at a red light, he texted Caitlin asking if she was still out getting food and if he could meet her. He then turned left onto MLK, continued onto Chiquan, and made his way towards 7th Street. Colin arrived back at his house at 8:43 p.m. Once inside, he sent another text to Caitlin. Then he headed into the garage to work on his bikes, getting them ready for an upcoming race. At 9:21 p.m., while still in the garage, Colin sent Caitlin another message. Moments later, her 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee pulled into the driveway. Given everything Colin had revealed, detectives began to suspect that Caitlin Armstrong might be more than just a jealous ex. She could be a key suspect. Colin's connection to Mo was clear, and Caitlin's jealousy over their relationship was no secret.
I guess obviously she didn't like Mo. Like, did she do that with like all of the girls that are in your phone, or like just with Mo, since y'all had that
Most of them.
special connection?
Most of them.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know, she loves me, and she wants to be, you know.
Yeah. Basically, nobody else can have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So gets kind of jealous.
Yeah, but it
Understandable. I
wasn't
mean,
exactly.
This tension, combined with Caitlin's history of threatening and harassing Mo, placed her squarely in the spotlight. That suspicion only deepened when investigators ran the plates of the black Jeep Cherokee. It didn't belong to Colin. It was registered to Caitlin Armstrong.
whenever I was over there earlier, I saw there was the other car, because you said that you drive a motorcycle and then you drove the Mercedes.
Drove Mercedes.
Up here. I guess the other one
The Jeep is hers.
Okay, so that belongs to her. Okay. Do you ever drive that one?
No.
Okay.
I don't like it.
You don't like it? What's wrong with it?
It's the Barbie car.
Oh, really?
I like manuals and diesels and things that are hard to drive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I gotcha.
I grew up with old cars. I
Yeah.
just don't like nice cars.
This revelation added a new layer to an already tangled case. Detectives pressed Colin further. Did he know where Caitlin had been that night?
She got home around like 9:21. Like where had she been? Like that whole.
She had actually a laser hair removal appointment, she said, at 7 p.m. downtown.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, I'm not exactly sure. She had texted me asking if I wanted to meet up, and I didn't reply. And you mean Caitlin?
Yeah.
And then I didn't see her or hear from her until I was back at home.
And did she say anything like whenever she got home? Like where'd she been?
No, but she was in her like a yoga outfit, carrying a yoga mat.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I assumed.
Did she actually go to like a studio or anything, or?
Yeah, typically.
Yeah.
Typically. I'm not sure which one. There's, I think, a few different ones. She's always trying to convince me to go, and I've never actually been.
Yeah. I gotcha. And so where's the studio at?
I don't know which one it would be.
Oh, okay. So it's just like various different ones.
Yeah.
Although Colin had been texting Caitlin the night of the murder, he couldn't provide a solid alibi for her. He had no idea where she was or what she was doing during the critical window when Mo was killed. Detectives now had a potential link between Caitlin and the crime scene, but it wasn't enough. They needed something concrete. So they asked Colin a crucial question. Did he own any firearms? Without hesitation, Colin admitted that he did. He told detectives he had purchased 2 handguns between December 2021 and January 2022, one for himself and one for Caitlin. Colin also revealed that Caitlin had gone to the firing range with her sister to practice shooting. This was a critical detail. If the murder weapon turned out to be a 9mm, investigators might be one step closer to linking Caitlin to the crime. As Colin kept talking, detectives moved quickly. They executed a search warrant on his home. Inside, they found both firearms, exactly as Colin had described.
We noticed that the Springfield seemed very clean. There was no carbon buildup in the chamber. It possibly had never been fired, or if it had been fired, it had been cleaned really well. Upon inspection of the Sig Sauer, we noticed that the chamber was extremely dirty, a lot of carbon buildup. It had obviously been fired.
The guns were seized and sent for forensic testing. Now, investigators needed to answer a critical question. Had one of these weapons been used to kill Mo Wilson? And even more urgently, was Caitlin Armstrong involved? With the evidence mounting, Caitlin Armstrong had now become the prime suspect in the murder of Mo Wilson. But despite everything investigators had uncovered, it still wasn't enough to arrest her for murder. That is, until they uncovered one small but crucial detail. Caitlin had an outstanding warrant for theft of service. She had received a $650 Botox procedure and never paid for it. It wasn't much, but it was just enough. Detectives finally had the opening they needed to arrest her and bring her in for questioning.
All right, just hang tight and sit right here in this chair, and someone will be with you. Do you need a water or anything?
Totally love you.
Okay, all right.
She was placed in the interview room, and we let them sit for a little bit because we do want to kind of watch their body language, see what they do, how they respond, if they're fidgety, if they're not. She was interesting because she was extremely still, which kind of stood out to me.
All right, so I'm Detective Connor, and so my partner is actually talking to Colin right now. So I wanted to come in here and start chatting with you and everything, so you don't have to wait super long. So it sounds like you may have some information, may have witnessed something, so I just wanted to chat with you about some stuff. But you're here for a warrant right now, I guess. Are you familiar with what you have going on with that?
No idea.
Okay, so I guess it was like a theft of service warrant, something kind of minor.
Can you give me any information on what you're talking about?
As far as the warrant or as far as everything else?
As far as the warrant.
Yeah, so I don't know too much. I guess it's just a theft of service. Usually that's like something like didn't pay for something pretty minor.
Can you tell me what it was that was the theft of service?
I can look. I'm not sure what it is at this point, but I can look that up later and get you a little bit more information on that for sure, because I'm not sure about that part of it. Okay.
The detective sidestepped Caitlin's question about the warrant, instead steering the conversation toward Mo Wilson's murder. It was a calculated move designed to catch her off guard and closely observe her reaction.
But because you are here and because you were under arrest for that portion of it, we always have to read Miranda and stuff because I want to talk to you about some other stuff that's unrelated to that.
And I'm sorry, if I have an existing warrant and you don't know what it's about, do I need an attorney here?
So the warrant is just a Class B, just theft of service type thing. The reason I'm here is because your name came up during a conversation with Colin. I think there's a lot more information that you have that can kind of explain some of the stuff he's saying. So I'd like to talk to you and kind of get a little bit more information on that. But to be able to do that, I have to read you your rights, just so that you know and you're protected and things like that, okay?
Okay, and so if you're reading me my rights, then I should
That's because of the warrant, because you're under arrest for the warrant. So you're technically in custody because of that warrant. So they're two separate things. Does that make sense?
Detectives had Caitlin right where they wanted her, but then came a critical misstep, one that would cost them everything.
Are they knocking here?
I think it's for something else. So with the warrants, so that's what they were just knocking on the door is apparently that warrant, the date of birth was wrong. So it had your name, but the date of birth is wrong, so it's to a different person. So that's not, you're not under arrest, okay?
Okay.
I know, it's a little crazy.
The warrant had been filed with the wrong birth date. That single clerical error was enough to render it invalid. Without a valid warrant, detectives had no legal grounds to hold Caitlin. The detectives tried to brush it off with a joke, but the damage was done. Caitlin now knew she was free to leave at any moment. Sensing the situation slipping away, the detective quickly shifted tone, trying to keep her engaged and talking.
But I would really like to talk to you and clear some stuff up because Colin did bring your name up, and I think there's a lot more information that you have that can kind of clear some stuff up. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I feel like I should have an attorney present.
So that's totally your choice. So at this point, you are free to leave at any point. So this is going to be consensual at this point because you're not under arrest, okay?
To make matters worse, Caitlin had just asked for an attorney. Legally, the detective was now obligated to stop all questioning related to Mo Wilson's murder. But instead of backing off, she decided to tread a dangerous line, one that risked crossing legal boundaries in a last-ditch effort to get Caitlin to talk.
So there's a situation that's going on. Did you hear about what's happened over the past 24 hours?
Colin walked in the house and said one of the women in the second community passed away.
Yes. Yeah. While Colin was talking to us, your name came up. And it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and it sounds like, you know, Colin's been maybe talking to this girl for a little bit and kind of threw your name in there. I want to get your side of it, okay? Because there's always two parts of it. When we hear just his side of the story, he's got a very different version of everything that's going on, okay? When we only hear one side, it only gives us one side to work with. Does that make sense?
I suppose, yes.
It sounds like there were some issues between you and this girl, and I think that there's probably a lot more to it that you could help explain. There's maybe some explanations for a lot of things that happen, and I think it would be very beneficial to get that side of the story so that we can clear it up.
Caitlin was clearly curious. She wanted to know what the detectives knew. And that's why, despite being free to walk out, she stayed put, caught between the instinct to stay silent and the urge to gauge just how much the detectives had uncovered.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean or what information you'd like.
So it sounds like, you know, it sounds like maybe he went out with this girl the other day, and maybe it sounds like from what he's saying that you were a little upset about it. And so that's why I kind of wanted to get your side of it, because that's not fair if he's just saying one thing and trying to go down a route, and I want to make sure that's not the case.
It's not accurate.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to chat with you, because it's a guy. He's going to say stuff, and so we want to make sure that we get both sides of the story and everything and clear it up. So what were you doing yesterday?
I would like to leave, I think.
You'd like to leave?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if that's completely your choice, but understand if you do, then we only have one side of the story to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we're hearing from Colin, you know, it's one side, and I think it would be very beneficial to get the other side of it and kind of explain a little bit more of, you know, what's going on actually.
Well, I just am uncertain as to even what you mean or what he could have said, because I didn't have any idea that he saw or went out with this girl.
Okay, yeah.
Recently.
Has he been like talking to her
I would
on
like
the
to
side?
leave. I don't actually know, and I would like to leave.
Okay.
At that point, getting Caitlin to talk seemed like a lost cause. The moment the detective brought up Colin Strickland and the tension between Caitlin and Mo Wilson, her demeanor shifted. Her body stiffened, and her eyes darted toward the door. She wanted out. Sensing the moment slipping away, the detectives made one final move. She dropped the bombshell, confronting Caitlin with the surveillance footage of the SUV circling Mo's neighborhood on the night of the murder.
So, okay, that's totally your choice. And the door's open, you're welcome to leave. But again, that limits us to where we only have one side of the story. And your vehicle was seen next to her house. And we needed to talk about that, okay? Because when he's saying this stuff and then your vehicle is seen, like, I want to be able to explain, okay, there's a logical explanation for this. Maybe you were upset and you were just in the area or something. Like, I don't know, because I don't have your story. Does that make sense? Because I want to be able to explain that. Okay, when I can't explain that and all I see is that your vehicle's over there, that kind of makes it look not too good, right? Okay, and then when we're talking to Colin and we're hearing like, yeah, there was some jealousy stuff going on, like, that doesn't sound very good. And so that's why I really want to get your side of the story, because maybe there's a lot more going on.
I would like to leave if I'm free to leave.
Okay. Is there any explanation as far as why the vehicle would be over there?
I would like to leave if I'm free to leave.
Okay.
As soon as detectives mentioned the vehicle, Caitlin's demeanor shifted. She became visibly uneasy, anxious to end the conversation and leave the room. To investigators, that reaction was a major red flag.
Typically, with a truthful person that has not done anything, they're going to respond in a manner of, how can I help you? They're going to offer up information. So it was a very different reaction than what I expected from her.
But without enough evidence to hold her, police had no choice. Caitlin Armstrong walked free. Still, one thing was now undeniable. Caitlin was their prime suspect. As the investigation progressed, detectives knew they had to keep a close watch on her and dig deeper into her behavior before and after the murder to uncover any signs of obsession or escalation. And so they turned back to the one person who knew her best, Colin Strickland, who was still in the other interrogation room. If anyone could help them connect the final dots, it was him.
Obviously, a girl who's jealous and to the point that you're needing to change her number or change the name in your phone. There's a little bit more backstory to that because you wouldn't feel the need to change it if she wasn't a little bit more upset. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So let's talk about that. What kind of things has she done, said surrounding Mo?
I cannot honestly say that this is something that I can see happening. I cannot imagine it.
Is Caitlin capable of hurting Mo?
I could not imagine her capable of hurting anyone, to be quite honest. I thought she was like, my impression of her is confrontation adverse. So that I just can't transport myself to this situation. It just doesn't compute. All I can say. You're asking me, does this seem like no, this does not seem like a conclusion that I would arrive at. It seems like a bizarre dream to me. I wouldn't be living with a fucking person who I think is capable of doing this. I would never, in a million years, have someone in the house with my mother who I think is capable of this. The answer is no. I don't believe it. That's my perspective of the world.
Has Caitlin ever been violent?
Never. My impression of her is almost like a softie.
If Caitlin had been planning to kill Mo, Colin claimed he had no idea. He insisted he'd seen no signs of jealousy or obsession that suggested she was capable of murder. But was he being honest, or was he just too close to see the truth? Police also conducted a forensic analysis of the two guns found at Colin's home.
Both of those handguns were taken to our crime scene laboratory. They were fingerprinted and swabbed for DNA.
Test rounds were fired, and the shell casings were entered into the National Ballistic Database. They were then compared to the casings recovered near Mo Wilson's body.
This was done by microscopically measuring the distance between the pin mechanism inside of the handgun and the indention that was on the spent cartridge cases.
The results were undeniable. The shell casings found at the scene matched those fired from the Sig Sauer P365, the gun registered to Caitlin Armstrong. Her firearm was the murder weapon. At this point, police had a mounting case. Caitlin's car was seen at the scene. Her obsessive behavior towards Mo was well documented, and her gun matched the one used in the murder.
Mariah was younger. She was well-liked and well-respected. We began to feel that Caitlin could be very jealous of Mariah. What we're looking at here is a love triangle.
But it still wasn't enough. To make an arrest, they needed irrefutable proof, something that would leave no room for doubt. So they followed what no one can erase, the digital trail. They collected cell phone data from Caitlin, Colin, and Mo, along with GPS records from Caitlin's Jeep and Colin's motorcycle. By cross-referencing the digital data with surveillance footage, investigators mapped out the precise movements of all three of them on the night of May 11, 2022. Now they had a comprehensive trail, and it was about to reveal a disturbing pattern. At 6:33 p.m., Caitlin's Jeep pulled out of her driveway on Fort Clark Drive and initially headed toward downtown Austin. But about an hour later, it changed course and turned east toward Caitlin Cash's home in East Austin. Colin and Mo arrived at Poolburger around 7 p.m. after their swim. By 8:16 p.m., they left on Colin's motorcycle, heading back to Cash's residence. At 8:26 p.m., surveillance footage captured Caitlin's Jeep driving north on Maple Avenue, then turning west on East 18th Street, circling the neighborhood for roughly 15 minutes. As Colin dropped Mo off, neither of them realized that Caitlin was nearby, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At 8:35 p.m., surveillance showed Colin riding northbound through the alley near East 18th Street. 1 minute later, At 8:36 p.m., Mo unlocked the door to Caitlin Cash's home and went inside. Then at 8:37 p.m., Caitlin's Jeep was captured pulling into the alley and stopping directly beside the house. Moments later, a nearby Ring doorbell camera recorded Mo screaming, followed by gunshots. The next time Caitlin's Jeep was seen moving was at 9:17 p.m., roughly 2 minutes after the gunshots were fired. It made 2 brief stops near dumpsters before eventually returning to Strickland's house at 9:48 p.m. On the other hand, Colin's phone data placed him 8 miles away from Cash's home, driving southbound on the I-35 frontage road by 8:48 p.m.
GPS data showed that he did not stay long once he dropped Mariah off.
What we also found was that Colin received a phone call at about 9:07 that evening from a friend of his, and his friend ended up confirming that this was Colin that he was speaking to. The phone call lasted about 8 minutes, and he hung up the phone at 9:15, which is the same time that gunshots could be heard on the doorbell camera. This proved to me that there was no way that Colin could have been involved in the murder.
When detectives examined Caitlin Armstrong's phone records, they uncovered another critical piece of evidence. Her phone had been turned off at 7:30 p.m. on May 11, 2022, and wasn't powered back on until 9:47 p.m., a blackout window that perfectly aligned with the time Mo Wilson was killed.
It seems as though she's trying to hide her whereabouts, hide her location, and her movement during the time of the murder.
Caitlin may have thought turning off her phone would cover her tracks, but instead it did the opposite. It raised even more suspicion. While analyzing Caitlin's phone, detectives uncovered another disturbing detail. She had access to Colin's Apple iCloud account, allowing her to see logs of his calls and texts. Even more alarming, just 9 days before the murder, she had logged into his Gmail and Instagram accounts from her own phone. Caitlin used that access to dig deeper into Mo Wilson's life. In the weeks leading up to the murder, she looked up Mo several times and tracked her movements and activities through the Strava fitness app. Investigators also recovered a deleted note from Caitlin Armstrong's phone. It contained a single entry, 1704 Maple Avenue. The address wasn't tied to an official residence, but a quick Google Maps search showed it pointed directly to the location where Mo Wilson was staying. Even more chilling, the note had been deleted on May 12, 2022, 1 day after the murder. 2 of Caitlin's friends, Nicole Mertz and Jacqueline Chastain, came forward with damning information. They told police that on 2 different occasions, Caitlin had confided in them about her growing jealousy over Colin's relationship with Mo Wilson. She was convinced he had cheated on her, and she was livid.
They had a discussion with Caitlin at an after-party event, and that Caitlin had just seen Mariah. Caitlin was furious. She was shaking. The caller indicated that Caitlin told her that she wanted to kill Mariah. And of course, the caller thought, "You don't really mean that." Caitlin, though, she said, "No, I really want to kill her."
With the evidence against Caitlin Armstrong piling up, there was only one thing left for investigators to do: arrest her.
She plotted and planned this murder. She tracked Mariah Wilson to that apartment, and she stood over her and shot her one final time. And for somebody to be able to do that, to have the capacity to do that, it's just cold-hearted.
On May 17th, 2022, 6 days after Mo Wilson's murder, a warrant was issued for Caitlin Armstrong's arrest on charges of first-degree murder. But by then, it was too late. Caitlin Armstrong was already on the run. On May 13th, 2022, just 1 day after being questioned about Mo Wilson's murder, Caitlin Armstrong sold her Jeep Cherokee to a CarMax dealership in South Austin for $12,200. The very next day, she boarded a flight from Austin Bergstrom International Airport to Houston. From there, she caught a connecting flight to New York's LaGuardia Airport. And then the trail went cold. Despite combing through domestic flight logs and surveillance footage, detectives couldn't find a trace of where Caitlin had gone next. Until someone close to her made a discovery that changed everything. Desperate for answers, they reached out to her family. That's when they uncovered a crucial clue. Her sister, Christine Armstrong's passport, was missing. It now seemed likely that Caitlin Armstrong hadn't just disappeared, she had fled the country. So investigators expanded their search to international flight records. This time, under the name Christine Armstrong, And what they found confirmed their worst fears. On May 18, 2022, Caitlin Armstrong had used her sister's passport to board a one-way flight from Newark Liberty International Airport to San Jose, Costa Rica. Realizing they were now dealing with an international fugitive, local law enforcement called in the U.S. Marshals Service.
During the investigation in Costa Rica, it was learned that Armstrong traveled to multiple destinations to include San Jose, where she landed there at the airport, to Jaco Beach, and to Santa Teresa, Costa Rica.
Given Caitlin's background as a yoga instructor, the marshals focused their search on yoga studios and hostels in Santa Teresa.
It was discovered Armstrong used different names, aliases, under the alias of Beth Martin, Liz, and Ari Martin. Armstrong used these names at yoga studios and other lodging since her arrival in Costa Rica on May 18th.
But tracking her down wasn't easy. The town was filled with tourists and yoga practitioners, many of whom resembled Caitlin. So the marshals went old school.
Officials involved in the investigation conducted old-fashioned law enforcement techniques, went door to door, conducted multiple interviews, going from yoga establishment to other yoga establishments, and also made contact with lodging venues that she had left behind.
As weeks went by without any sign of Caitlin Armstrong, the marshals came up with a bold plan to draw her out. They posted a Facebook ad on a local Santa Teresa page, advertising a yoga instructor position. Caitlin, using one of her aliases, took the bait. She responded, expressing interest in the job. That led authorities straight to Don John's Surf and Yoga Hostel. Costa Rican police and U.S. Marshals launched surveillance on the property, working to confirm her identity. Since arriving in Costa Rica, Caitlin had gone to great lengths to avoid detection.
According to foreign officials, Armstrong altered her physical appearance. She dyed her hair brown. She cropped her hair shorter to about shoulder length and had a bandage on her nose where she claimed it was from a surfboard incident just days before.
But that wasn't all. She had also undergone plastic surgery, including a nose job, a brow lift, and possibly facial fillers. But despite all the changes, one thing gave her away: her eyes. They remained distinct and recognizable. On June 29, 2022, after more than 6 weeks on the run, Caitlin Armstrong was finally arrested. She was taken into custody and brought in for questioning. At first, she stuck to her story, insisting she was someone else and claiming her bandaged nose and bruised eyes were from a surfing accident. But investigators weren't buying it. They were convinced the injuries weren't from the ocean. They were the result of a deliberate cosmetic surgery, a calculated attempt to erase her identity and stay hidden. Their suspicions were confirmed when they searched Caitlin's locker. Inside, they found a receipt for cosmetic surgery and 2 passports. One belonged to her, the other belonged to her sister. The evidence was undeniable. After hours of questioning and the exhaustion of 43 days on the run, Caitlin finally cracked. She admitted to being the fugitive authorities had been chasing across the globe. Caitlin was extradited to the United States and arraigned on July 21, 2022. She pleaded not guilty to the murder charge and was held on a $3.5 million bond at the Travis County Jail.
We were able to get a DNA sample from her. That sample we took from Caitlin Armstrong was compared to the swabs that were taken from the crime scene on the bike that we found in the abandoned lot. It came back as a match to Caitlin Armstrong.
And just like that, the case stopped being circumstantial. Investigators now had physical evidence linking Caitlin Armstrong directly to the victim's bike. The last thread had just snapped into place. There was no room left for doubt. After months of delays from pretrial motions and hearings, her trial was finally set for October 30th, 2023. But what investigators didn't know was that Caitlin still had one more trick up her sleeve, and it was the most shocking one yet. On October 11th, 2023, just days before her trial was set to begin, Caitlin Armstrong requested a medical appointment for a leg injury. She specifically asked not to be placed in leg restraints due to medical reasons. While being escorted back to jail after the appointment, Caitlin made one last-ditch attempt to escape. She ran and attempted to scale a 6-foot fence before officers caught up with her.
As they were leaving the facility, she ran from those corrections officers, and she made it in total about a block and a half. Both of the officers who were pursuing her on foot never lost eyesight of her. They could see her the whole time.
Surveillance footage revealed that she had been preparing for this escape for months, exercising intensely in the day room and during recreation time to build strength and stamina. Inside her cell, officers found a metal pen with the pin removed and dental floss, both potential tools to tamper with restraints. But despite her efforts, her bid for freedom was short-lived. She was quickly apprehended and brought back into custody. Caitlin Armstrong's trial began on November 1, 2023. Her defense argued there was no direct evidence tying her to Mo Wilson's murder, no eyewitnesses, no surveillance showing her at the scene. They claimed the case was built on circumstantial evidence, speculation, and confirmation bias, rather than solid proof. They also questioned Colin Strickland's credibility, emphasizing his lies to Armstrong and suggesting his testimony was unreliable. But the jury didn't buy it. After 2.5 weeks of testimony and deliberation, Caitlin Armstrong was found guilty of murdering Anna Mariah Mo Wilson, and on November 17, 2023, she was sentenced to 90 years in prison.